Hello and welcome everyone. Today we're basically going to work on creating materials. Let's begin with creating the parquet material for the bedroom. Now, first off guys, the parquet that we're going to deal with has this specific pattern to it. This, you can say, angular pattern. Basically, we don't have a simple or non-detailed pattern. You know what, guys? Now that I mentioned this, if you were to work on a simple or a normal parquet, you would have used this multi-map. Now, though, due to the rotatory angle that we need to deal with, we can't really use this method. What should we do then? Let's find out. Guys, the thing is, this parquet has been modeled using a flow generator, so that's why we actually need to use its related plugin. Also, guys, remember, we would basically use flow generator for modeling the items that we need, such as this parquet here, and then we would use multi-texture for applying or specifying the required materials. And honestly, guys, you don't really need other methods. You can just stick with using multi-texture, and it is being supported by most of the versions of Max, even Max 2024. Now, what I'm going to do next would be adding this Corona material here, guys, and it could be either physical or legacy, it doesn't really matter which. And then, actually, before all of this, guys, you actually need to install the plugin, the multi-texture plugin first. And installing it is quite simple, nothing special there. After installing it, you would be able to find it quite easily in your general tab. Anyway, after adding the multi-texture, we can connect it to our diffuse color and then basically use it as the material for our parquet. Alright guys, we're not done here though. We still don't have any maps, so we need to add some to our texture. So from Manage Texture, I'm going to click on Add Bitmap. Now, let's open up one of these textures. Guys, basically, multi-texture selects select textures like this one, and then randomly applies them or sets them on the parquet. So guys, the important point that we need to consider here is the fact that due to this random setting or random distribution, we just need to select or go with similar textures. And this is not that big of a deal, honestly. We can just simply use several textures released by the same company. Now, there are some users who in fact create their own specific textures using, for example, Photoshop, but this is not our focus, guys. So let's just stick with using what we have. And then later on, we can, for example, apply some modifications on the colors using color correction. Now, I usually go with this parquet, guys, because I simply like both its texture and its color. So yeah, I'm just going to try loading all of these models. Here we go, guys. We got the material for our parquet. Take a look at it. This is actually very good on its own. We didn't apply any specific modifications on it, but this is quite fine. All right, now let's go through some complementary points, guys. First off, when you're dealing with scripts, don't forget to save your files because you might be facing problems such as system crashes, okay? Now, as for another point, so far we set this or we add this multi-texture for the diffuse color. We also need to do the same for the other aspects that we have, such as bumps or glossiness. So yeah, just wait for the saving process to be over, then we can add the next multi-texture. Oh, and guys, avoid getting a copy here because your system might crash. All right, so I'm going to add or connect this multi-texture to the bump. Now, we already talked about normal bumps before, guys. We got these bumps that we can use, these purple ones. These are quite fine. Let me check another one. Yeah, to be honest, this one is even better. Anyway, so let's try loading the textures again. Here we go. We got the multi-texture for the bumps, but guys, we can do this better. How? I'm going to add this normal bump here. Then I'm going to connect my multi-texture to this normal bump first. And then connect the normal to the bumps here. Then I can go ahead and try controlling the bumps value, guys. And normally, the range of value that we go with here for the parquets would be somewhere in between 1 and 5. I'm going to go with 5 though. Okay, what else? I'm going to reduce the blur. I'm going to do the same here. Honestly, guys, by reducing the blur, we would kind of add more freshness to the work. Alright, so far so good. Next up, let's try adding a bit of reflection to the parquet. First, I'm going to increase the reflection all the way to the end. Then, I'm going to try giving the multi-texture a controller. I'm going to use color correction. And then I'm going to connect this to the reflect glossiness. Then here I'm going to select monochrome. Also adding a bit more brightness to the gamma to get a better reflection. Alright, basically what's happening here is that the reflection is set on 100. However, for the glossiness, I'm actually using this map here. Now I can even do this differently. I can connect this to the reflection, and then instead I can clear this and try specifying a value for the glossiness. And well guys, we can always connect both of them to a map. Yeah, basically guys, when we're dealing with materials, such concepts are quite optional. Alright guys, so far the parquet material works pretty nicely. Let me just select show the material, then we can check the whole thing. See? This is pretty good. Alright, here we actually got another point to which we need to pay attention. Let me try to check the detail that we have for this texture. Take a look at the dimensions. We got 599 by 816. So I'm gonna open up the calculator here. 599 divided by 816. 7.35. Okay, let's just leave this for now. Now guys, let's say the dimensions that we're using for the parquet itself is something like 150 by 10. Okay? Now, I'm going to open up the calculator again. 150 as for the length divided by 7.35. We get 20.4. Now I'm going to use this value for the width. Now, why did I do this, guys? Because I wanted to make sure that I have a complete consistency between the texture and each parquet. Take a look at this, guys. If I use an edit poly here, you would see that dimensions are completely consistent. So yeah, guys, pay attention to such details as well. Now, take a look at this, guys. For randomized by material ID is selected, don't change this. This is a good option because, as I said, we've created this model using flow generator. And when we do that, each parquet would have its own specific ID. And as a result of this, the whole randomizing thing will be done quite nicely. Now, we can still work on the other items that we have here, such as the gamma or the saturation. To be honest, though, usually I don't really touch these. Well, maybe just changing the seed in case I really didn't like the pattern. But, well, other items, no, I don't really change them. And if I ever wanted to change the parquet's color, I would just use a color correction. Right, now let's try testing this through a render. And by the way, as you can see, I've hidden all the other objects here because I wanted the parquet to be completely visible. Wait for it. Okay, guys, I'm actually detecting some sort of a drastic color difference here, and I think we actually have such a color difference due to the reflection that we specified. So yeah, I'm just gonna try to reduce the reflection a bit to see whether our problem would be solved or not. So let me just do this real quick. Okay, so there's something wrong here, honestly, guys, and I'm trying to find out what exactly. Trying to find the problem here. That's why I'm too quiet at the moment. All right, let me do the rendering one more time. All right, guys, you know what? I think this whole color difference issue that I'm currently facing here is because of the textures that I've used. So I'm going to try another type of texture here and try the rendering one more time. Hopefully we won't get that color difference again. So again, guys, for the bumps, I've used these normal bumps, and as a result, I got a drastic color difference. So I'm going to disconnect this, move it out of the way for a second, and try using another multi-texture. This time, I'm going to use the same textures that I used for the materials, guys. Let's see what we're going to get now. Also, I'm going to add another color correction here. Now give me a normal bump. Also, I'm going to set this on black and white. And then also, I'm going to reduce the gamma to reduce the brightness. And let's test the render all over again. All right, you know what? I guess this one actually makes more sense, to be honest. And, well, guys, as you can see, you just need to test different things, test different ways. I mean, sometimes the normal bump might give you the best result for some specific materials. Let me try to edit the colors a bit, reducing the saturation. Somehow get it closer to a gray color, you can say. Okay, yeah, I guess this kind of works. Let me hide the rest of the objects here real quick to see the parquet more clearly. Yeah, honestly, this is better. And we still have a bit of color difference here, guys, but this is basically just related to the outside lighting and the shadows. And I'm still going to work on some more textures, guys. I'm going to try creating more textures to find the best one for our area. Yeah, let's just do that. Let's try working on creating another parquet or texture, basically. Now, obviously, this way, not only we're practicing this whole process one more time, but also we're actually creating an alternative for this whole thing. So the steps are quite the same as before. First, we need this Corona material. Again, doesn't really matter whether we go with a physical one or a legacy. And you know what? This time, let's actually try a physical one. Now, again, there's no huge difference in between these two types. However, there is a small point that we need to consider. The thing is, guys, sometimes during our works with some specific objects or materials, we might have to use Corona converter. Let's say, for example, we're dealing with a curtain. Yeah. Now, using Corona converter, all of your materials would basically be converted into physical materials. And this way, the metalness might be changed to metal. And for example, that curtain that I mentioned earlier would become a metal, whereas it should have been some sort of a fabric, like, for example, cotton. I mean, we're talking about a curtain, right? So when you're using Corona converter, check this metalness item, guys. Well, again, other than this, there's basically no huge difference in between using a physical material or a legacy one. Anyway, give me the multi-texture again, and this time, let's try another type of map, actually. See what we have. I'm basically trying to find a different type of map, which is kind of a difficult task because all of these textures are released by the same company, so they are quite similar. Okay, I'm going to go with these. Let's just load these. And remember, guys, the number of textures that we would use is quite optional as well. Right now, I'm going to connect this to my main material. And now we just need to repeat the same process as before. I need to check the detail from Add Bitmap. See what kind of dimensions we got. Also, I'm going to open up the calculator. All right, so we got 1952 divided by 388. The result, let's go with 5. Now, how about the dimensions for the parquet? Again, length 150. So 150 divided by 5, obviously 30. Why did I use a calculator here? Anyway, guys, remember that consistency that I told you about before? I'm basically just trying to create the same thing, or to have the same thing here as well. And well, everything seems fine. Next up, we can try working on the bumps. Before that, let me try to control my max level real quick. Good. Alright, what I'm gonna do here would be adding or connecting this multi-texture to the base bump, guys. Now, I'm gonna use the same textures as before, with the ones that I used for the material. Wait for the loading process to be done. Okay. Wow, I had to use these many textures. Too many of them. Alright, anyway, I need a color correction now. Then I'm going to select monochrome again. And after that, controlling the gamma. I'm going to reduce it actually. And yeah, I guess this would be for the bumps. Do we got anything extra here? No, seems like not. Alright, now it's time to get another render to test this whole thing. Again, let me hide the objects. And guys, as you can see, this pocket is completely different from the previous one. And you know what? I guess the pockets are actually too large, guys. So let's see whether we're able to change this by changing the dimensions. Like, for example, for the width, give me 15. 15 could be good, guys, because it is exactly half of 30. And I guess the consistency won't be that drastically changed. And honestly, now that I think about it, 30 is actually too much width for a pocket. And I'm just trying to add a bit more logic and realism to this whole thing, guys. Anyway, guys, overall, now we have another type of pocket. We just created another texture, another type of pocket that we can work with. And, well, using which is quite optional. It depends on you and what you have in mind. Again, guys, the important point that we need to consider here would be regarding the dimensions here. We just need to make sure that we have a good consistency here. Now, what I'm going to do would be using the previous pocket, guys, because it had less textures and it was lighter, honestly. Obviously, I'm talking about its size, its file, not its color. But let me just calculate the required ratio one more time. We have 7.35. Okay. So 150 divided by 7.35. 20.4. And you know what, guys? Again, I think we can go smaller. Like, instead of 20, we can go with 10. Yeah, exactly like before. I guess 20 might be too much width. Alright, now I'm gonna deactivate the material override here, guys. And then we can check up the rest of this entire thing to see whether we need any materials anywhere else or not.